We live in perilous times. For those of you that are actually paying attention to important world events, wars are raging all over the globe, from the conflicts between Israel trying to defend themselves against terrorist attacks by Hamas, to Russia and Ukraine engaging in a war of attrition. And now this week, we see even China conducting military drills with its warplanes flying near Taiwan. Even in our own Western nations that were once the proud beacons of freedom and hope, the envy of the world, it appears that we are now presiding over our own inevitable demise, which is stemming from the destructive cultural wars to the chaos and the blight of moral decay, which are causing the foundations of the Western world really to crumble. So it seems that there's like a great darkness and these invisible hands of chaos and destruction that are just engulfing the entire planet. Thus, it's only a matter of time, if things continue the way they are, before all of these conflicts culminate and drag the world into a global war that will affect all of our lives. And as if these events weren't bad enough, you guys might have seen in the news that during a Donald Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, we saw a 20-year-old lunatic fire gunshots at the former president in a brazen assassination attempt.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
I mean, come on. The good thing is that Trump only sustained an injury to his ear, but tragically, one person ended up dying and 2 other people were critically injured, which is just disgusting and horrifying that this would actually occur on our shores. Now, the fact that Trump survived an assassination attempt is mind-boggling, as he was completely exposed while he was standing on those bleachers. But here's the part that really baffles me. Now, according to Mark Corralo, who's a former Justice Department official, he states that the attacker shoots at Trump and misses him because Trump turned his head a millimeter, and instead of it going through his brain, the shot glanced off of his ear. I heard that and I was like, what? A millimeter? Are you serious? Now, this got me thinking of another recent attack, which occurred a couple months back. There was a 26-year-old gunman. He tried to shoot Pastor Glen Germany as he was preaching on stage, also in Pennsylvania.
What is going on in Pennsylvania?
I don't know, man, but that place sounds like it's pretty dangerous. So I'm grateful that we're here in the free state of Florida. But now, when the attacker walks up to the stage and points the weapon at him and starts pulling the trigger, the gun gets jammed. I hear that, I'm like, the gun gets jammed? What? That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. And that got me thinking even more about a heinous attack that took place on April 15th of this year against my favorite bishop, Mar Mari Emmanuel, where he was viciously and savagely attacked by a radicalized 16-year-old jihadist wielding a knife. Now, the crazy part is that when the jihadist pulls out the knife and he's trying to stab the bishop, the knife didn't even open properly and the attacker ends up cutting his own finger off. What? Like, what's the deal with that? Now, what I can gather between these 3 occurrences is that either these attackers were all really, really stupid, or there was a genuine supernatural miracle that kept these 3 individuals alive for a specific purpose. Now, isn't it interesting that all 3 of these individuals that were attacked were all leaders in their own right? One of them was a local leader, one of them was a national leader, and one of them was an international leader. And it appears to me that there's a lot of individuals out there that want to silence certain leaders in our country. Now, in order to help us understand why these 3 leaders were attacked, I want us to look at a quick video from my good friends at the Patrick Bet David podcast, where they're discussing the attack that happened against Bishop Mar Mari Emmanuel. Now, I want you to please listen very carefully at what Vinny and Tom have to say is the reason behind the attack.
Besides just a world war, guys, there's a spiritual war happening with good and bad. I know Tom wants to say something about it. It's a war on our kids. It's a war on our minds. It's a war on the food that we eat. We are under attack from all freaking angles.
I think this is just the atrocity of mankind, and it's broken men living in a broken world.
Wow, that was powerful. There's a spiritual war happening with good and bad, broken men living in a broken world. Those statements really opened my eyes to the reality that we're at war. Whether we realize it or not, we are engaged in wars all around us. Like Vinny said, there's a war for our kids. There's a war on our minds. There's a war on our food. I mean, think about it. How is it possible that in today's day and age, people believe mutilating a child or chemically castrating them is okay? What nonsense is that? How is it possible that the truth in today's culture is now called hate speech because some nut jobs' feelings are getting hurt? How is it possible that governments, under the guise of climate change, are trying to destroy our own food supply because some juji fruit says that, oh, cows are bad for the environment? You know what's really bad for the environment? Starving your own people. That's what's bad for the environment. So all of this talk about war got me thinking. What is really the main reason behind wars anyway? I mean, with global trade and modern technology, you no longer need to fight for food or land or resources, so it can't be any of that. Then I remembered a movie I saw in high school about a secret societies called the Skulls. There's a particular scene in that movie that I want us to look at, and it's where the new members are being paired up with their soulmates. Now in this clip, you're gonna notice the word war proudly displayed on the wall. And I thought it was curious that the keyword displayed was war. When you're talking about having a soulmate or a friend for life, I want you to listen to this scene where the characters talk about the significance of that word war. Play that clip, Josh.
And the word war in the ritual room, what exactly is the significance?
Those who wish to become our leaders choose the ordeal of war to prove themselves worthy of the privilege.
What if we're at peace?
There are always wars to be fought, Lee.
Wow. Those who choose to become our leaders choose the ordeal of war to prove themselves worthy of the privilege. So according to the senator, if you want to lead, you use war to achieve your goals. That actually makes sense. So I decided to go back into history and find where the first time war is actually mentioned. I was able to find a Sumerian stone carving of the first recorded war in history, which was around 2500 BC. And of course, there has always been conflicts on this planet, even before then. But since these wars predated writing, they couldn't be written down. But then I had an epiphany. And I started thinking about that biblical story of Lucifer and his great rebellion. That would provide the first ever glimpse of a written record of a war for leadership that occurred sometime in the dateless past, which would precede any other war written in the annals of men. Whether you take the Bible as literal or metaphoric, it provides a clear picture of the consequences of what happens to a kingdom or a nation due to wars and the effect it has on determining the destiny of that nation. Now, unfortunately, we don't have time to finish this topic today. So in part 2 of this video on war, we're going to talk about the reasons why Lucifer rebelled against the Creator, what was his purpose in rebelling, what impact it had on humanity, and we'll also discuss the reason why humans always have to be in some form of constant conflict. But I don't want you to get depressed by the subject. We're also going to discuss a great hope on the return of the King who will end all wars and finally bring peace to broken humanity. You don't want to miss our next video. It's going to be out of this world. See you then.